Hi, I'm Transapient, and after the week that was Jurassic Week leading up to Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, I realized it's kind of been a while since I've done something that was like among the first videos of my little channel, which was reviewing dinosaur books, obviously aimed toward your young children and seeing how they should hold up as their main objective is to try to be educational as opposed to entertainment based, and should therefore be or at least have an attempt to be as up to date as they could, which you'd be surprised how many don't really do that. But here I actually just bought this for myself. I'm moving up in the world. It's not at the bookstore. I'm here in a car riding. I got my own little transport here. Anyway, so this is Inside Dinosaurs. It's a relatively it's not a very thick book, but it actually does have a lot of information in it. Like this book is not for maybe not for little kids. This is definitely for children who have gotten a more solid grasp of the English language, if you know what I mean. The art is mainly by Jason Birmingham, and it's mainly by all the text and stuff would therefore be by San Andreas Abraham and Carl Mayling. Alright. And wait a minute, what is this? I think I missed this. American Museum of Natural History. Well, dang. I wonder if this is where this came from. Oh, if we have an endorsement for something like that. I mean, geez. Anyway, so this old book, let me see if I could find the copyright. Should be around here somewhere. Let me know if you guys see it. It's not going to take you. Aha, 2010, I believe. That's alright. Oh, actually, that's pretty surprising, because even if it's only just 2010, there's actually some pretty darn updated stuff in here. Because as you can see, just by looking at it, it's definitely for kids that have a larger vocabulary. There's a lot of text, and it actually has a lot of big fold-out pages, and it's at first it actually does go, the stuff that it goes into detail of, it does actually have a pretty good grasp on it. It has a really good general overview of just paleontology itself, and how they locate fossil beds to discover and stuff. It's actually pretty interesting to consider that there are only relatively few places on Earth where the strata is just right. There are places that have been worn away just right to allow us to actually go there and actually find the fossils of creatures that lived in those areas. And so that's something to think about. There's actually quite a bit lost to prehistory, let's see, but it actually also goes into detail that it really it's very sciencey based. It has a lot of scientific terms and terminologies, and it also uses the cladistic classification. That is, it doesn't use the Linnaean system of classifying living things, which is probably how most of us learned it in school, which was defining groups of animals based on just shared relatively superficial characteristics, based on how similar they are, kingdom, then phylum, and then order, and then all the way down to genus and then species. Whereas cladistics, on the other hand, groups living things together in clades, which is just a group of creatures that have a shared common ancestor and retains those kinds of traits, And it actually does go into all of the different shared, well, maybe not all of them, but a couple of the very key shared traits of all dinosaurs as a clade. And actually get a really cool little pull-out thing of Plateosaurus here. I like this guy. Look at that. And again, this Jason Birmingham guy, he's actually got a really cool style. Oh, this is actually cool. We get to actually see, like, again, the pull-out pages actually has some really good art to them. Like, they've got a, like, I like the really, you can tell it's a sketch / brush based. If I had to guess, it definitely looks more traditional. Definitely not a whole lot of digital stuff in here, if I had to really guess. And may I say, that's actually a pretty good rendition of Archaeopteryx, because I think by judging by modern melanistic studies, you know, studying like the preserved melanin of feathers, Archaeopteryx was a relatively dark bird type creature, you know. And let's see, yeah, it also goes into, of course, all the dinosaur or different classifications. See, it actually has the cladogram based thing, and this is cool. You actually see like the transition of tyrannosaurs here, and it's excuse me, it actually does mention how tyrannosaurs and likely how a lot of like predatory dinosaurs likely changed as they grew. Like a lot of dinosaurs were likely, you know, more precocial at birth, and therefore occupied different niches as they grew, you know, from juvenile into adult. And tyrannosaurs up through their teenage years were actually pretty sleek and like kind of like marathon runners, and it was only when they started to get into an adulthood that they started to get all fat and slow and stuff, just like us humans. Anyway, but let's see, yeah. So yeah, with the have a lot of other stuff, like, oh man, like this again is man, I'm sorry, I just really, like, when I first flipped through this, I was really taken with this guy's style, the way you can really tell how it's all sketched out, and how he applied the colors and stuff is just really interesting. And here, of course, is the classic Tenontosaurus and Deinonychus and stuff. Personally, I think that if these raptor dinosaurs did gather in groups to hunt, it was probably more of coincidence, similar to like how some modern hawks or eagles and stuff do the same thing, where they're not actually coordinating their attacks as a group. It's just more of they all just happen to be in the same area and just go after this one creature once they notice that it's weaker than the others, and after that it's probably going to be all for themselves. So, oh well. Then again, you know, even though we can study the brain cases of some dinosaurs, like intelligence itself, even in modern creatures, can be pretty hard to define. So who knows, you know, that still could be up for debate here, you know. And of course, it actually goes out of the book, really constantly refers to most extinct dinosaurs as non-avian dinosaurs, which does really stress how modern avians, birds like the common gallus here, aka the chicken, are indeed members of the clade Dinosauria and should be called, you know, dinosaurs and stuff. Have the they also give like a little kind of an example of how cladistics is a more efficient system than the Linnaean system, where it was once like thought that just if it has feathers, well then it's a bird. But of course we now know there are many different types of feathers in the fossil record, and things should really be classified as different characteristics become manifest and stuff like that. So that's where cladistics is a much better, more efficient scientific way to describe things and stuff like that, you know. Development of the wishbone here and stuff like that here too, you know. With a little Bambi raptor, you know. And of course, all these kinds of books, even really cool scientific ones like this, always end on a depressing note. Here we have the what does it say? I think it's Allosaurus. So this is North America at the end of the Cretaceous, because it's now a barren wasteland, and these guys are all gonna die slow, starving deaths. Anyway, but of course these little guys survived. It's now I think I've read a few studies that suggest that it was more ground-dwelling, seed-eating birds which were the the best suited to live through the disaster, because there were actually a lot of other many groups of birds that were wiped out as well, like perching birds too, since obviously that meteor did a number on forests, that would have utterly eliminated their habitat for a while. So yeah. And of course it also mentions how things change, how improvements in technology and techniques is a big way in which we modify our understanding of dinosaurs, like the old version of Velociraptor and of course the new version. And they actually mentioned that the colors here are based on ground birds in desert habitats, and that's actually, I thought, was an interesting little note to include, because like often if you see like sometimes if you see like a feathered dinosaur, they sometimes kind of go crazy, like out of their way to portray them with the colors of a parrot or a hummingbird or some brightly colored thing to, like, I don't know, super emphasize the fact that they have feathers, you know, when really, I mean, you should really like hold on, you know, take a step back and really look and know what kind of environments these creatures lived in, and just look at the kinds of color schemes animals there today have, and that's where you can get a much more naturalistic portrayal of them, you know. So yeah, anyway, and it actually does encourage trips to like museums and stuff to, you know, see how things are and for themselves and whatnot. So yeah, and it actually does kind of have a nice little inspirational encouragement here to make your own discoveries, things like that. So yeah, all in all, I'd say Inside Dinosaurs, I mean, after all the a lot of initial dinosaur books I do that in which they really do not do a very good job of being as up to date as they could with certain things, this one actually does a pretty very decent job, I think. The facts all presented, even though again it's probably for more older kids, it's still easy to understand, and the art itself also is really interesting, has a good style to it, fun and stuff. The flip out pages offer a lot more, you know, extra space and stuff to explore things and stuff like that. So yeah, all in all, this is definitely for any kind of parent or dinosaur enthusiast, young dinosaur enthusiasts. This is definitely gets a recommendation, I think. So again, that's all just this one Transapient's opinion. So thank you again very much for watching, and have a nice day.